Hello and welcome to LinkLender training. We are here to talk about user management today, all things user related. So on the agenda for today, we are going to be discussing the organization lookup screen, how to set up offices slash and or teams. We will be editing and creating new users, and we'll be talking about user options. So let's jump right in. So with the organization lookup, that's where all of the users and offices are managed and set up. It's found in the top right-hand corner under the tools menu. The organization name is always at the very top. And then you have your regional offices and or teams set up below. Individuals can be added within each of these regional offices, within these teams, or they can be set up at the head office level. In the example you see on the screen here, Abdul and Aiden and Alicia, these folks are actually set up under the head office level. They are not in the IC team or the leading edge or the INC groups. So these are expandable. But these folks are at the head office level. And then I have additional folks working inside each of the offices. So let's jump over into LinkLender. And everything that we talk about today will be here under the tools menu. And we're going to pop into the organization lookup. So using that example from before, we have our head office, Newton leading edge. If I collapse it, everything disappears and expands. I've got my IC team, which I can expand and see the members contained within that team. I can expand the leading edge Toronto team, and I can expand, there's only one person under the Inc. team. Abdul, Aiden, and Alicia, they are all at the head office level, even though their names are not showing directly under the office. That is the way that it appears. You can see the difference between my leading edge team. They're reporting directly under this group here. So you can set up regional offices to denote an actual physical address change. So, one office is in Mississauga, one office is in Vancouver, one office is in Quebec. This could also be used to denote a team. So it could be that I've got my pod A and my pod B and my pod C. Visibility is always defaulted so that, Jackie and Jane and John can search each other's work queues more easily than they would be able to search, to the Toronto team. It is possible more for the management type of roles to search across teams, but in general, teams are great for being able to manage a group, to pull reports for a manager's team. That's always a really handy benefit. So we'll start at the office levels. This is highlighted, and whatever I see over here on the right coordinates with what's highlighted. So if I click on LinkLender, things will slightly change to show my LinkLender. So this is handy if you ever needed to, if your office had a change of address, you could go in here and instantly update the new address information. The active to date on everything that we talk about in terms of users will always show 2099. This is the lender's Equifax number. This is the lender's TransUnion number, if applicable. Who is the main point of contact? And any phone numbers. Okay, we'll always save any changes. Cancel, we'll always abort mission. And anywhere you see fields are listed in red, those are your mandatory, non-negotiable. We must have mandatory fields filled in. So same thing for IC lender. If I click edit, I can see in here my information. I can see my contact info for the group or the office at large. Within each of these offices, then I have individual users, and I can click edit, and the page is just slightly different for an individual versus the page that we were looking at for an office. All right. If you have a large group with tons and tons of users, it is helpful to know that you can search by name or search by regional office name. It will bring you right to and expand the tree and take you right to that person. There's me, Michelle Arujo. I'm under the Leading Edge 2 Toronto team. So that's it for editing. So editing, we set up your initial organization structure. You manage it moving forward simply by clicking and hitting edit. Note to self or interesting to note is if you would like to expire or you've been given notice, someone has left your organization, click the edit button for that person and just change the active to date to today. Or if they've given you notice for the end of the month, you could change the active to date for May the 31st. Day, month, year is the format for all of the dates. Some people also like to add into the first and last name field, type in inactive so that it shows up in the tree that person has already been deactivated. That's a personal choice and up to you if you think that would help. Okay, when it comes to adding a new user or adding a new office, the main tip, the main takeaway for adding new users is where is your mouse currently highlighted right now? If I was to click add right at this moment in time, I would actually be adding a new individual under Andre. So I would essentially be creating a direct assistant or a direct report to Andre. So that is normally not the way that we recommend that you do it. Usually we would start off by saying, do you want to set this person up under the head office? Or do you want to set this person up under one of the regional offices? So make sure that you have a group and or the head office highlighted in bright blue before you click the add button. And that way you know that you're adding the person in the right location and not as an assistant by accident. It's not very easy to move people around. It has to be done through a special request to us. So it's just a thing that I like to highlight during training. Just make sure before you are adding an individual into the system, just make sure that you have the office or the team highlighted and not a specific person highlighted before you go. And then click continue. Okay, so the user ID, you're just making it up at this point. You might have, as a lender, a format that you like to follow. So in some cases, that would be, first name, last initial, or first initial, last name. Up to you. The user ID cannot be changed ever. So once you save this user profile, if you put a spelling mistake in the user's name, you would basically have to expire that user and create a new one. So be aware that user ID cannot change. And then it's active from today, active to 2099, which is the typical way that we set it up. You need a first name, a last name, and you need a memorable word and a memorable date. What's going to happen is that when you finish setting up this new user, you're going to invite them via their email address. You're going to click the invite button after you've saved this new profile. And that's going to send a link to this person's email address. And it's going to say, hey, you need to know the special word and the special date in order to proceed in creating this account, this password. So whatever you decide to make the memorable word and the memorable date, you need to communicate that to the new user because it will not be included in the email. They will get an email, an invitation, a link, and they're going to be asked, what is the magic word? What is the magic date? So you can always make this to make it secure. Then you want to make sure that you're creating unique, memorable words and memorable dates every time you invite a new user to create a LinkLender account. English or French is their preferred language. Working hours is 7 hours a day, 24 hours a week. And then you can decide what roles this person should have. So a quality reviewer is someone who doesn't generally underwrite, but they like to go in and double check that all of the files are compliant. An allocator is generally someone who also does not underwrite, who is one central place for receiving applications, and they would then assign the deals to individual underwriters. An underwriter underwrites the deal, can approve, decline an application. A senior underwriter has slightly higher approval limits, also can underwrite, approve, decline, and respond back on a deal. An underwriting supervisor generally manages a team. So they could have slightly higher approval limits, and they have visibility to people who work in their pod. They can really easily flip back and forth and see what their team is doing. You can have one role per user, or you could have multiple roles per user. So in many cases, it really does help to know what each individual person's responsibilities are, so that we can help guide you in making sure they have the right roles. A manager manages a team and can pull management reports. A credit manager is not much different. I think I have a list of what each of these roles' specific differences are. An executive has read-only access to the entire system, but can manage the entire division all at once. And then you have a system administrator for the entire division, or a system administrator just for your little group, just for your office. We also have product administrators, user administrators. To use any of the functionality that I'm telling you about right now, anything under the org lookup, you would need to be a user administrator. And if you want to manage your brokers in terms of which provinces get delivered to which team, and or which offices get delivered to which underwriting pod, then you would need a broker relations administrator role. Notes can be something in here simple like on 3-month probation, or password reset was requested by my manager. This is all internal information that only the user administrator has access to. And all of this information that you see here, the entire organizational tree, can only be managed by a user administrator. This is the business address. This is the contact email, the contact phone numbers. We generally don't worry about the brokerage information. This is from legacy functionality. Does this person have access to request Equifax bureaus? If yes, enter your Equifax information in here. If they have access for TransUnion bureaus, then add their TransUnion information in here. The electronic signature does not go anywhere at this point in time. This is a potential future feature that we don't have. We put this placeholder in here for a future enhancement, which may come down the line. Click OK to save, and or send the invite button. I generally hit the invite button first, which prompts me to save, and then the invitation will go out to this user. Once you have invited a user, I have some missing data, right? You can see there that it's saying, sorry, you can't invite this user. I'm going to call this Mish Rouge. We'll give her a maiden name, and 01/01/1975. Once you have enough information to save and invite, you will be able to save and invite this user. Sorry, you have to save, click OK to save, and then we can send that invitation as well. Okay, so once this person, the invite has been sent, you could always hit the reset password button if they got stuck or they couldn't get in, or if, for example, you accidentally sent it to the wrong email address. You could hit the unlink button to sort of start the whole process again. So if I hit the unlink button, it will let me re-invite this person if they're having trouble. And just go through a couple of other items here. So as I mentioned, make sure that you have the individual, as you're adding new individuals, make sure you don't have Michelle's name highlighted unless you want to set up an assistant for Michelle. Do make sure that you have selected the office or group first. And that's about it. That's all there is to keeping your people up to date. You can give roles as needed, take roles away. We will send over the roles, competencies, and a little bit further definitions on what each of the roles does. And now we can pop in and talk about user options. So user options are mostly personal preference user options, and these will become easier to decide what a person's personal preferences are once they get in and start playing around inside of LinkLender. So things like decide what you want your default page to your landing page to look like as soon as you launch a session. Would you prefer to go straight to your work queue, straight to your existing apps list, or would you prefer a more generic homepage? Do they prefer to have the system menu collapsed while they are working in a deal? Would they prefer to have their GDS, TDS, and LTV displayed horizontally or vertically? So those are all mostly personal preferences. We encourage everyone to make sure that they keep their email notifications set to yes. But from a user perspective, from a user options, if you're a system administrator, you have the unit defaults available, which you might have, for example, for credit bureaus. You always want, if an underwriter is pulling credit bureaus, you always want them to pull them as singles. These user options all match the personal my options view, but this is a spot where I could take user options away from individuals. So anything that I enforce by putting a check mark here basically means that the individual people within my group will no longer see those options as something that they have. It will no longer be a user option if I've clicked the enforce button. So the only one that I've seen this done has been through the credit bureau, where a lender is very specific that they always want single bureaus, or they always want joint when available to be the default. Then they might take that decision away. But it's really just a personal preference option. So I would say that maybe just the email options don't allow someone to accidentally turn off their email notification options. I would not enforce anything else at the top. If anything, I would enforce the email options, but maybe not even that, to be honest with you. Okay, that's it. Just trying to think if there's anything else worth mentioning. I don't think there is. Let's do a quick recap of the key points for user management. The new office or the new individual, whenever you click the add button, will always be created under whoever is highlighted. So if you would like to deactivate a user, change the active to date, basically to today. You can reset their password if you wanted it to be immediate. And that's about it. So we do have our LinkLender for administrators more generic video, but the user options are discussed at minute 1 minute 14 seconds, and the organization recap is at 3 minutes and 50 seconds. So if that helps you, feel free to jump into our video. A copy of this recording will be forwarded to the team. Thanks very much for your time, and I hope that was helpful. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Bye.